Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There's a couple of things I feel like the Lord wanted me to share before we get into chapter 12 of the book. One of the things I saw yesterday, I was just, I think it was on Pinterest. I was just looking through Pinterest and it came up and it said, "We slow down when we see a cop, but we don't stop sinning when God's watching all the time." I laughed out loud and I said, "Lord, that can't be more true." And I said, "Zach, you have to listen to this." And so I told him, and he laughed and he said, "That's pretty good." We forget that he's watching all the time.
Yes, that's right. It's the truth.
But, Mama walks around and we're like, "I'm good." Our cop comes in, we're like, "I'm not doing anything illegal."
Start braking.
Yeah.
Put that foot on that brake immediately.
Yes, that happened this morning. There was a state police officer pulled somebody over on the side of the road, opposite side of the road, and the whole line of cars in front of me, they all start braking, and I'm like, "Guys, we're not even on the same side of the road that he's on. He's busy giving this person a ticket. Could we at least go the speed limit? Because you all have all now dropped way below."
Yes.
For, I guess, guilty conscience.
The fear of authority.
Yes,
That's it.
But they don't fear God.
Come on. Oh, boy, that'll preach.
Fear for a moment, anyway.
Right.
Guilty.
So there's 3 verses I wanted to share, and they all are about pride. And it's not like we haven't heard these verses before. It's just a little refresher for those of us who need it. The first one is Proverbs 16, verse 18. "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall."
Amen.
And that's, it sounds so simple, but it's, and maybe that's how the enemy gets in. These things are so simple, but they're so powerful at the same time. And then we make them so complicated because we don't want to obey them.
What's that, Proverbs 16?
16, verse 18. This next one, I'm going to read a little bit more than what, it's in Mark. It's in chapter 7, starts in verse 14. And what the title of this is called is "What Defiles a Person." "And when he called the people to him again and said to them, 'Hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going into him can defile him, but the things that come out of a person are what defile him.'
Yes.
And when he had entered the house and left the people, his disciples asked him about the parable. And he said to them, 'Then are you also without understanding? Do you not see that whatever goes into a person from outside cannot defile him, since it enters not into his heart, but into his stomach and is expelled?' Thus he declared all foods clean. And he said, 'What comes out of a person is what defiles him. For from within, out of the heart of man, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, foolishness. All of these evil things come from within, and they defile a person.'"
That's what was in the temple that the priest cleared out.
Yes.
That's what he's talking
And that's what we need to clean out of us.
about. Exactly. That's it. That's it.
The last verse is 1 John. First John chapter 2, I'll start in verse 15. "Do not love the world or the things in the world. For if anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires. But whoever does the will of the Father abides forever."
The will. Yes.
And that's where God, like this morning when I was getting ready, because it was so, this whole thing was so God. So yesterday when I got the text that we weren't having church, I panicked at first because I was like, today we had already had planned. My in-laws were coming over. My husband and his father had something they were going to do. And so I thought, my God, like we already have Sunday plans. Like I don't know what I'm going to do. And then it was just like, okay, Reagan, he's got this.
Testing you on the word.
And so I had this burden to come here. And so I was like, I just don't know how that's going to happen. Because we hadn't really finalized who was coming where and what time yet.
Right.
And so when I told Zach, he goes, uh-oh. And I was like, no, it's okay. God has a plan for this. I know he does. And so he texted his parents and I said, did you let him know that your mom would need to take care of Tekoa until I'm able to get home? And he was like, yeah, everything's good. And so I had already planned on making them lunch. So that's in the crock pot. It's cooking. They're probably eating it right now.
Oh.
And so it was one of those things where it was like, Tekoa can spend time with her grandparents and her father. She'll be okay.
Yes.
My burden was to come here. And that's the thing, like I wasn't worried. I knew they would be taken care of, but I just thought, God, what am I going to, like, how are you going to do this? How am I going to get there?
Yes.
And then I thought, okay, if this is coming out, he's got a plan. There's a way. And it's not like my in-laws absolutely love spending time with Tekoa, and most of the time when they come up, it's because we can't take any more days off and she's sick and they come up to take care of her. So it'd be nice for once for them to be able to come and spend time with her, and she's well.
Yes.
and full of herself this morning. During this whole process of reading this book, there were things that have been coming up in my own heart that I didn't know were still there. And so it's been one of those kind of, and it's funny because, everyone laughs when I tell stories of this. In the beginning, when I first started coming to church and I would read something, and it'd be like, ooh, I gotta put that down, I need a couple days. But I'm telling you, I just kept going and going and going, because I thought, the further I go, the more he's going to reveal, and the quicker it's going to go. It's going to get out.
Yes.
And it's just like this burden that lifted, because, like I said, I think it was last week, I said there was a time that I thought I would never know what it was like if I wasn't stressed, because I've lived my life so long stressed out that I'm not even sure what it feels like to not be stressed. You don't know how burdened you are until they're lifted.
Yes.
And then you're like, oh wow, I had no idea how burdened I was until they were all gone.
Yes.
You don't, because you get used to it. It becomes familiar.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this heaviness, it's always been there. It's normal, right? Everybody has that. There are times when you're more burdened, but if it's from the Lord, it's not weighty, it's not heavy. You just know you need to do something. You need to
like
you need to release.
Yeah.
Right.
You carry it to full term and you
Right.
pray it through.
There's a pressure in pregnancy of
Yes.
there's the heaviness that you know something's in there, other than the moving and that kind of thing. And it's getting bigger.
Stretching.
And you can't do anything about it. So you just carry it, and then there's the release once you birth the baby. It's exactly like his burdens are. It's not troublesome. It's not, you don't regret. I hear all these people that are always like, oh, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that. Well, then why did you decide to get pregnant? You knew during this time you were going to have to take care of your body in a much different way and do things that are safer for the child. Same thing, we need to guard the destiny and the life and the vision and the dreams that God gives us. So we can't just act any old way when we're pregnant with them. We have to take care of them. We have to foster them. We have to love them. We have to pray, wage war, those kinds of things. If you don't want that burden, walk away. You get to choose. But if you're going to do it with an unwilling spirit the whole time, you might as well just walk away, because nothing's going to happen. You're going to be unfruitful. Everybody's going to be like, what's wrong with you? Like, you have destiny in you. Like, aren't you excited? Pregnancies are all different, and there are challenges to them, but it's because all of your resources are going to give life to develop your
Yes.
child.
Yes.
It's the same way when he gives you a destiny. Everything you have, you're putting into it. You're pouring out yourself constantly, and he's pouring into you. So there are times when it's uncomfortable because things will come up and trigger, or there's times where you feel alone or that nobody understands. But it's because they're not supposed to.
They're not where you're at.
They're not where you are. Maybe God isn't revealing that part to them.
Exactly.
So he's giving you this part, and then once you birth it, then the rest will come, they'll see.
Yep.
I mean, it's a process that you just have to trust God in the entire time. And it's the same way with reading this book. There were things that would come up, and at first I'd be like, God, I'm forgiven. I'm over that. And he's like, well, are you? When the subject comes up, what do? Tense up? Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm not over that. So you just go to him, and every time he would bring something up, I would take that time, talk to him about it, repent for not trusting him in the beginning when I went to him to ask to forgive the people. Because the other thing, he talks about it, there's a story in here that John Bevere talks about a woman who, in the church who came up to receive prayer, and she kept saying, like, she couldn't get free, and she didn't understand why. She kept feeling this heaviness, and he said, well, you've not truly forgiven that. And she's like, but I have. But she hadn't, because what she was waiting for, see, this man had left her. They were both in the church. He was a pastor. And he left her for another woman and told her that he missed it by marrying her, because he was really supposed to be with this woman. And so things changed. And so John Bevere said, you haven't forgiven him because you want him to come to you and say, I was wrong and you were right.
That's it. That's pride.
And that's pride.
Yes,
And
it
you
is.
won't get it. You won't get it.
That's the truth.
God will tell you where you were wrong in something and where you were right, and where they were wrong but it's not our job to deal with them. It's his job. He'll sort them out.
Yes.
He'll come to them and he'll bring truth to them, and what they do with it is their responsibility. It's not ours, and it's not ours to hold the forgiveness until they come to us and say, I was wrong, you were right. Because that makes you feel good in your flesh, but that's not what God's telling you to do. He's telling you to forgive anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's probably going to happen again, and then you're going to be tested again about whether or not you've forgiven, until you're willing to forgive, with the knowledge of the other person may not ever apologize or tell you that they were wrong.
Yes.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it all aligns, and, for them to come to you and say, I was wrong, and this is my part in it, and please forgive me for it. And it's just so funny. Tekoa started this thing, which I know God was showing me, because God speaks to me all the time through her. She, I can't remember what happened. The other day something happened, and it was an accident, and I said, I'm so sorry, do you forgive me? And she was like, yes. And then she says to me, do you forgive me? And I was like, yes, of course, baby, but you didn't do anything wrong. So then randomly the other day, she just said, I forgive you, Mama. Do you forgive me? And I was like, I do. But it's that willingness to so freely give forgiveness. To not worry about who was really right and who was really wrong. She had done nothing. Nothing. And she just came to me and said, I'm sorry, Mommy. Do you forgive me? Yes, baby, I forgive you, but you didn't do anything.
She's reflecting back to you what you're teaching her.
Yes.
Reflective listening.
And she really, she's picked up this thing, and we haven't quite figured out where she's gotten it from yet. I'm assuming daycare, because it's not a phrase that we typically use. But she'll tell me something, and then she'll say, do you understand me? Last night she got these new bath crayons, and she was so excited to use them. So excited. So much so that bath time happened before dinner time, which doesn't normally happen in that order, because she's a little bit of a messy eater. But she was just like, I said, well, let's go take him in your bathroom. And she said, okay. And we walked in there, and then she was like, I take a bath now? Mommy, I want to take off my shirt. And I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. I'm not going to argue with you. If you're willing to take a bath right now. So she's playing with him, and she's riding on top of the tub. And I wiped one part, when she wasn't looking, to give her more space. And she won't write on the whole free space of the bathroom. She writes on this one spot. So I wiped it off so she could color more. And then she was like, Mommy, don't wipe it off, okay? You understand me, okay? And I said, yes, ma'am. I understand you loud and clear. She said, and she'll go, okay, okay. So I know during discipline times, they've got to, her teacher has got to be saying, or someone has got to be saying this to her to make sure that they understand. Because we don't normally say that to her. I would just say, are you listening? I don't say, you understand me? So it's just so funny for the things, and God will, sometimes he'll smack my bottom through them, and sometimes I'll just laugh and think, this is probably how you are, Lord. Like, don't do that again. You understand me? And we're like, yes, Lord, and then we turn around and do it again. And he's like, do you understand me, okay?
That's so true.
It is.
From a 2-year-old, there's just something about that.
Oh, every day, it's just, I'm like, Lord, I hope the next one is just as entertaining, because we laugh all the time. All the time. The other day, she was in trouble. I can't remember what happened, but I remember looking at Zach, and I was just like, I can't right now. Like, I know we have to be serious, but I can't, because what's coming out of her mouth is hilarious, because it's a 2-year-old speaking as if they were an adult.
Exactly.
And now she's doing this thing, Mommy. I don't know where she got it, but she'll say, Mommy, we have to. I have to. So when we were at the grocery store, Kroger has these shopping carts, which are great, and then sometimes I'm like, Kroger, there are little cars in front of them.
Accommodating the kids, yes.
So the cart itself is smaller, and then you got this, it's huge, and the turning radius is so small on it.
Yes.
So most of the time, Zach goes down the aisle, and I just stay there and entertain her, because I'm like, I can't get through that aisle even if I wanted to. And she'll sit in the car, and then halfway through, she'll want to get up. And we're like, no, you made the choice to sit in the car, so that's where you're going to sit. We can't carry you, you're not walking, because most of the time, well, yesterday we chose a very busy time to go to the grocery store. We didn't know it was, but so yesterday she was pleading with me as Zach's going down the aisle to get something. Mommy, I want to get up, I want to walk. And I said, no, you chose to ride in the cart, you're going to ride in the cart. And she said, Mommy, I have to get up. And I said, oh, you have to? Yeah, I have to get up right now. And I don't know where she got this from. I'm assuming kids at daycare, because we don't tell her. I mean, it's not like we're saying you have to do this right now. But the same thing also, if I pick up my phone to check it real quick, and she'll say, Mommy, I help you? And I said, well, I don't really need help. Because sometimes if I'm on Instagram, I'll let her go through the little videos, because she likes to click and stuff. And she goes through them so fast it doesn't matter. I don't ever see them. But she, if I'll say I don't need your help right now, Mommy, you have to share. I'm like, you're right. Sharing is important. I don't know that sharing this is important, but it's like, let's just put my phone away. But it's like, you gotta stay on top of it, because she's not wrong. I do have to share, but I don't know that in this instance it's important, or
Age appropriate.
right.
It's not age appropriate.
And thankfully, most of the people that I follow don't put up inappropriate things.
Right.
And if they do, I usually don't follow them, because it's not somebody I want to follow. There's been lots of women out there who, say they're believers, and they'll have or they're moms, and so I'll follow them, and I'm like, okay. And then it's like the cursing in every post, or in the videos, and and I'm like, no, you can't say that you're following Christ and
No,
put
because
this
you're
filth
defiled.
on there.
You're defiled.
And so then it's like, okay, well, a couple posts ago when I followed you, you were great, but now I'm not going to follow you anymore because I can't. If you can't put up content that you wouldn't want your kids to see, then you shouldn't be putting up anything.
Right.
I mean,
It doesn't honor God.
right? It doesn't honor
I
God.
just went down on it. I just went ahead and told him on his page for everybody. God, and he received it.
Well, that's
Now I don't know if he took it down.
That's good, because it's everyone sees it, and the things are, if you think that just because you're private on any social media account that you're safe, you're wrong.
No.
That's it.
You can search for any image that's ever been posted on the internet, private or not, and it's there.
Yeah.
Instagram hosts them, even Snapchat that's supposed to be is only 10 seconds long. Somewhere someone is storing that information.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it can be pulled because Snapchat has been subpoenaed before for videos or pictures that were posted and supposedly gone. They're never gone.
Right.
Once it's on the internet, it's there forever.
Yes.
Forever.
Yeah.
Facebook too.
And Facebook's the same way, all of them. And so just thinking that you go private, and mainly mine is because I don't want people to steal pictures of Tekoa.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because for a while I've been wagering whether or not I should be public, but then I thought I can always create a separate account
There you
and
go.
not post anything about her,
Yeah.
but do for ministry purposes and that
Yes.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
Because even somebody who is very outspoken, you guys would love her. I think her Instagram name is Activist Mommy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she is on it. She is on it. She speaks out, goes places and speaks out about what's going on in our public school system. She talks about the president. There's a lot of, I've actually ended up finding a lot of good people through her. But she just recently went private. It's probably because of how outspoken she is. She also gets a lot of people coming at her and attacking
Oh,
her.
yes.
Because she's telling the truth. And she's a believer as well. And I believe her kids sing, they do some sort of worship. She's posted videos of them singing before church and stuff. But it's one of those things where you're like, somebody's going to come at you once you start speaking the truth. And if everybody is saying, oh, that's such,
Oh,
that's so
yes.
good, then you might want to check yourself. Because are you saying what's popular, or are you saying what's
Exactly.
true? Or are you saying what
True.
God's
You're not
telling
gonna
you
be
to say?
popular.
That's right. That's right.
Because you're not going to be.
Not
And that's what
mainstream.
No.
God was talking to me this morning about what I call undercover Christians. So these are the people that walk around every day, and you never know that they were a believer until subject comes up, and they're like, oh yeah, I believe in Christ. And you have that moment inside where you're like, really?
You would have never known.
I would have never known. Your speech doesn't reflect it, your actions don't reflect it, that kind of thing. Or the people that always say, like, I don't want other people to know I'm a Christian, so don't tell people.
Oh, that says private.
Right.
My
It's a
neighbor says
private
private
thing.
thing.
Yeah. It's between me and him and whatever. So he started talking to me about this morning, because I work with a couple of them. Well, one that is not really an undercover Christian. It's just every time she speaks, you kind of are like, that wasn't pleasing to God. And then the other one doesn't want anybody to know that they're a Christian
Oh, Lord.
because of the stigma that
She
comes
don't
with
want any
it.
persecution.
Right. But to say, well, if you come to me and you talk to me, you'll figure out I speak differently. No, she doesn't. I act differently. No. It's like the rest of the world. And I don't say that putting myself above her. I'm sure there's times where people have probably been like, oh, because
You're just saying
you get in the
yes.
flesh. I'm just saying that when she said that at first, God was like, red flag, like, you don't want anybody to know you're a Christian? And Jesus was talking to me this morning, and he's like, everyone knew who I was when I went around
Right.
because I was different.
Right.
I spoke differently.
Mhm.
I acted differently.
Yes.
I was
Speech
different.
gave away.
Yes.
I wasn't undercover.
Mhm.
They knew something's different about this
Right.
man. But my spirit is being drawn to it, so I'm going to go check it out. And yes, he offended, but he also drew many
Yes.
people
Yes.
in.
Yes.
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 So this is the equivalent of us putting a lampshade on our light.
Uh-huh.
Come on.
let's just dim that down a little bit. I don't want to run
Don't be
them off.
too bright.
Yeah, I don't want to be too bright. I don't want to be too zealous. Somebody told me one time I was too zealous.
No.
I said, okay, that's fine. That's your opinion.
Don't you dare back up.
Well, and that's the thing. It says in His Word not to draw back.
No.
I mean, there are things that we do in our zeal that aren't wise,
Deal with that knowledge.
because when you come to Christ, there's this overwhelming feeling of, this is fantastic. Everybody will want this. I have to tell everybody about it.
Feel just like me.
Then all of a sudden reality hits in and you're like, no, not everybody wants this. In fact, a lot of people don't. They want a little bit of it, but like a dash.
That's it. They want on their terms.
Right.
Yeah.
They want a dash of it and they want it when they want it.
Yeah. They have to do. Bring up the sugar.
But you're pouring the whole salt shaker on them and they're like, no, 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 that's too much.
Give me the sugar.
And like a slug, they'll just
They
drive.
fire insurance, right?
They do. They
Fire
do.
insurance.
Right.
I'm gonna help.
Yes.
Just give me enough, keep me out of
Yes.
hell.
That's the truth.
Yep. Yep. Just give me enough so I can guarantee my spot in heaven, and then whatever happens, happens after that. I don't care to know anything more than that.
Mhm.
Well, it's sad because you're missing out on so much.
Yes.
There's, I mean, just in the book and in the scriptures that go along with the book, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, it's like a new pair of eyes,
Yes, it is.
a new brain, a new everything. You read it through, and you're like, I know, Lord, my filters were they were clogged the last time I read this. Or I was so in my stuff that I could only see this much. But now that the filter's clear, it's like wide open. There's no Roto-Rooter came, and they just different seasons of life will show you. This is why this word never gets old.
Yes.
It never gets stale.
More and more
It never gets boring, because every season through life, it'll take you through something different. I mean, now being a mother and reading this, it's a whole nother ball game.
Oh, yes.
And especially when the trumpet opens her mouth, and then it's even more of a whole, because it's like, oh, you read it, but let me demonstrate it for you.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
yes, sir.
Let me help you walk it, Mommy.
Let me just help you die a little bit more to yourself. Let me show you the areas where you still need a little bit of work. And that's the thing. I mean, I learn stuff about myself every day. Tacoma was sick the other day, and I told my husband later that night, I said, I learned something about myself as a mom that I never thought. I never thought I'd be the type of mom that would reach out for the vomit. I thought I would just be that like, ooh, go where you get it and I'll clean it up. No, I was that mom that in that moment, my child was sick, she was scared, and I just, whatever happens, we'll clean it up when we clean it up. And it was one of those times because it's, you don't, or I didn't in this moment, think about myself. She was scared. This is not something that she's done very often. She doesn't understand it, and so it was like, that's fine. It's okay. You're not in trouble. You didn't do anything wrong. You're sick. You have no control over this.
Yes.
And so after that, God was just showing me the love that you can have for someone, even though they're vomiting all over you.
Yes.
They're in their mess,
That's the truth.
and all you can see is how much you love them because you have His love. You have the agape love.
That's the truth.
And so even though they're messing all over you, all you can think is, oh, Jesus just loves you so much, and I love you so much, and I just want you to get to that place where you're not doing this, where the mess has been cleaned up, where you've gone there and cleaned it up yourself. Because this whole transformation, the inner and then the outer, it's messy a lot of the times. And you don't look so prim and proper and put together all the time. Usually, you're just kind of like, he's just going in and excavating and breaking up all this stuff, and so you're emotional.
Oh, yes.
Things are
sensitive.
come up that you didn't even know you were upset about, or something will happen to someone else, and you'll just weep and weep and weep, and you won't understand why, but you've developed this compassion. Your heart That's just the thing, and that's why God's going after the last 2 chapters. I knew, I was like, I'm not gonna make it into chapter 13, but I already read ahead, and I'm like, chapter 13 is called Escaping the Trap, and then the last chapter, 14, is called Objective Reconciliation. And so that's,
And it takes 2 to reconcile.
yes,
It only takes 1 to destroy, but it
Yes.
takes 2 to